Very good morning, beautiful followers. I hope you're all doing well. I am very happy and proud being here today with one of the greatest gentlemen in the aviation industry, Mr. Frédéric Revol. Frédéric, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
How are you doing today?
So far, so good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So where are you? That's the first thing.
Great question. So probably like you, Alex, and many of your followers, I'm home working. So I'm currently sitting in what is my living room as well as my office. I would say fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately for the day-to-day life, unfortunately because I'm missing obviously the interaction with the team, with the customers, with our partners. But hey, that's the fact in life these days.
Wonderful, Frédéric. So you're talking to us about interaction and customers and colleagues. So can you please tell us, who are you exactly? What do you do?
All right. Okay. Let's make it short. So I'm Frédéric Revol. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for a small but beautiful airline based in Paris, Orly, called La Compagnie. We have two A320neos operating flights between Paris and New York, as well as Nice to New York in the summer. What makes us specific is that our A321 are only equipped with business class seats, 76 seats only in business class. Very specific indeed, very interesting business model, and we'll have some time to discuss about that. About me, I'm an airline geek. I'm an airline guy. I've been in the industry for something like 20 plus years. I've stopped counting. I've been working previously in very beautiful airlines like Singapore Airlines, Qatar Airways for about 15 years in Europe, and as you know, in lovely Doha, where we two met. And I've moved back to homeland in France 2 years ago to take over the CCO job at La Compagnie.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great CV. I mean, it's a beautiful experience, definitely, and surely you've got a lot to tell us about the impact of COVID-19 on the aviation industry. So as you know, I am working on a thesis that talks about this subject. It is very specific. It was very long to write. I'm almost done. And I first of all thank you for your participation. That's a wonderful inside data that I'm getting from you. It's beautiful, and gentlemen, from you with your experience is just a great value. So Frédéric, I will start with this. What was the impact of COVID-19 on the aviation industry, on your company, and perhaps on you personally, if you want to talk about it?
Well, the impact is obviously unprecedented. Let's talk about the airline industry. We've been saying for years and years and decades that the airline industry is very strong, very adaptable. We went through geopolitical unrests. We've been through September 11. We've been through volcanoes. We've been through earthquakes, tsunamis. And I think we all remember one of those crises, and we've been telling ourselves that's probably the toughest we've been through. And I do remember personally the Icelandic volcano, where all of a sudden we had to ground everything in Europe. I was based in Paris working for Qatar, and I remember talking to the guys at the head office and say, all right, so you have a crew available, you have an aircraft available. Yeah, okay, great. I don't have an airport available. And at that time, I personally thought that I had been through probably the most epic, sudden and strongest crisis ever in the industry. And I think I shared that with a lot of my colleagues. Only did we know that COVID was coming around the corner, if I would say. What made the COVID the very, very specific one is that it's global. September 2001 was localized. The volcano was localized. If we're now talking about the Israel versus Palestine shootings, it is localized. COVID is global. And that's probably one of the first crises that we as an industry had to deal with globally. Also, it was very, very sudden in a way. Not that the crisis was sudden, because we had seen the COVID in China, in Wuhan, and then start spreading in Europe. We started seeing in February that the market was reacting downwards, especially on the leisure side. People were a little bit afraid of traveling. So there was a little crisis on the way. What made the crisis what it is today is the fear of the governments about traveling. We were the vector to propagate the disease across the globe. How to stop the disease from spreading is to stop people from moving. That's why you had the lockdowns, whether it's in France or elsewhere in Europe.
Quite unusual. I mean, to fight a virus.
Very unusual. Indeed, very unusual. I mean, remember probably somewhere in January where we in Europe were looking at China, looking at Wuhan, and saying, well, hang on, these guys are locked down. They managed to lock down something like 30 million people. That's not something that we will be doing anytime soon.
Indeed, but they managed
and we did it.
Time to create hospitals. Within 10 days. They got a thousand beds and another hospital with 1,300 beds in Wuhan.
And that was crazy. Looking from a European or Western perspective. So what was happening is that we've crossed a boundary about mid-March. And that boundary was, well, hang on, that's not anymore a Chinese problem or an Asian problem or something like the SARS a few years ago. It is a pandemic. It is something global that's going to hit all of us. So the government had maybe only one choice, was to shut everything down. And shutting things down is that the borders had to be closed. So you're now the CCO of an airline flying between Paris and New York, and you're told, you know what, you can do whatever you want, but your customers can't get into the US and they can't come back to Europe. But you can continue flying.
They can stay over the sea, right? Over the sea.
So yeah, well, unless I'm very proud of flying empty aircraft, or I'm very strong financially to be able to fly empty aircraft, which I'm not, then we had to shut things down. And at that time, I remember we were sitting with my CEO in the office and saying, "Oh, you can beat this one. Okay, so that's going to probably last a few weeks." That's what we had in mind, and say, how can we survive not flying for a couple of weeks? And that was mid-March 2020, and we are now mid-May 2021.
Wow.
And the situation really hasn't changed. If you want to go to the
it has evolved throughout the year. Now, a year almost, we are going towards a year and a half. The situation has not really evolved. In fact, it's going down, is it?
Well, I think we now know how to deal with the COVID, and that's why we as airline are pushing the governments to move ahead. We know how to control somehow the disease. We know there are some ways, particularly in winter. We now have tests, we have vaccines, so we have ways to limit the spreading. The knowledge that we have has greatly evolved in a year and a half, but the solutions are still the same. So when you have Europe and the US, which I'm primarily interested in, the borders are still closed. So although we know how to test people, we know how to have fast results, we know who is vaccinated, who is not, the solution is still, don't get into my country because you might be dangerous. Or if you get into my country, you have to quarantine for 10, 15 days. And that's what is killing us as an industry, because the solutions are a year and a half old, although our knowledge and our technology now is way better than it was. We know things are changing a little bit. Europe and US are talking to reopen the borders, and hopefully June we'll see that being unlocked.
Absolutely. But what we are seeing these days is that although people are vaccinated, they get into a country, they're still put in quarantine for 15 days in specific hotels, which their prices just rised up. I mean, so much. So I'm not quite sure whether it's a good solution or not, personally. I mean, throughout my studies, at least what I see, is because the impact of COVID is still on there. It's still on there on the economy. So, and this brings us to my second question to you. So you've told us basically what happened when COVID hit, with the flying, with the airplanes basically in the sky. But what about the economy? How did it hit your economy specifically?
Well, very simple answer. The sales have stopped pretty much overnight. The sales have stopped. On top of that, we had quite a number of tickets that were issued for flights that would not fly. And as you know, our industry is very specific in the way the cash comes in and out, is that we have sales in advance and then we pay for the flight on the day. So essentially, we are paying today's flights with the money of people buying today to travel later. So it all goes well when the machinery is properly oiled. There is cash in, there is cash out. That's what makes us work. And the entire industry, it's not specific to my airline. Imagine now that your sales have stopped, so the cash in has stopped. And all the cash that you had in the past that you used to operate the flights, which is now gone, you need to refund the customers. And that's where a lot of airlines are actually collapsing, is when you have this imbalance between the cash in and the cash out. And that's also why you see, without the COVID, a lot of airlines are collapsing somewhere around September, October, because they still have a lot to operate, flights to operate, but the sales are far less than they were before. So COVID had that impact.
I have seen Brian Pierce, the chief economist of IATA, saying that the reimbursement of tickets, of airplane tickets, were up to $30 billion, which is massive. It's massive. It is unprecedented, like you said. It's something that we have never seen before, surely.
And it's the entire economy of the airline industry that is at stake. No airline is out of this issue. Whether you're a small airline like us, or you're an Air France, or you're an American Airlines, you're still facing this issue that the cash doesn't come in. So this cash won't help you refund the customers that cannot fly. So how do you deal with that? Well, there's a few things that we've done. One is to look at what are the aids that the states have put in action. So with regards to France, luckily we've got a very, very strong social system, and what we've done is we've put our staff into very, very low working hours. And we've managed to get some assistance from the state. That's not an assistance to us.
In chômage partiel, huh?
That's called chômage partiel.
Social welfare to COVID.
And it is very important to point out that we are very lucky in France to have these kind of aids, because we've got about 110 staff working for La Compagnie. We didn't fire anyone. Look at the US, for example, where you do not have this kind of aids. The number of people that were made redundant overnight and they lose everything: their job, their salary, their social security, everything. That didn't happen in France, and we have to thank our government for that. It's probably something that costs us a lot of money when the sky is blue, but when the sky turns dark, that's where it really makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, France is just a great. It has such a great social system. I mean, people not working are provided by the people working, and today, you know, Earth. I mean, the globe just turns around, and things happen on the other side. It's absolutely crazy. Frédéric,
so that, yeah.
You have mentioned refounding the customers, and in fact we've seen that, for example, some low-cost companies refuse to refund, and they have been condemned by the EU, basically by the European Union and by the European Commission. The investigation is still going on, but it's going towards this condemnation. So have you been involved into such I'd say procedures?
Well, no, we've not been attacked, but let's be realistic. If I had to refund all the customers on day one, I wouldn't be talking to you today. That's very simple. I would have gone burst the day after, 24 hours max. There were a lot of discussions between the EU, IATA, on this issue, because that's not just about la compagnie, that's about everyone. Every single airline was facing the same issue. If we take the issue, for example, of tour operators have the same thing. They took the money from the customers for them to travel to Maldives in April. Okay, bad luck, the customers can't go to Maldives. There was a legislation that allowed them to not refund the customers, but instead turn this value into vouchers. Yeah. And that was allowed. There's still a dispute with Europe, but that was allowed. We've asked for the same, because part of the package is the ticket. So why would a tour operator be allowed not to refund the air components? But as an airline, I have to refund within 7 days. Yes. There were discussions. It's still on, and no decision has been made. But let's be very realistic. If we are enforced to refund within the 7 days, I will go burst, Air France will go burst, and many other airlines will go burst. I see what you mean. Unless someone else is helping with the money. I can't get any direct support from the state. That's not allowed in Europe.
So Air France KLM got 10.5 billion euros. Lufthansa something around this number, and all the other companies. We've seen also EasyJet getting something from the UK, and many other companies. They got this help. Qatar Airways, Emirates. I mean, all of them have declared getting state aids. So, have you got any state support in either in cash, I'd say, or nature, even kind of tax helps, tax reports? So, what did you get?
Yeah, so there's been a few things that the government has made, especially on the tax side. So delayed taxes, especially on the salaries. We've discussed about this chômage partiel in France. So that is, I would say, direct help from the government, but not directed to us individually. It could happen if your shop is closed or if you're a cinema owner. It's not directly related to us being an airline. Second thing that exists in France is state guaranteed loan. What that means is that you go to your bank and you tell them, I need a loan to help rebuild my network. So you discuss with your bank the same way as I will discuss with our banks to buy a car or a house. And obviously they will ask for a guarantee. They'll say, okay, that's all great, but what guarantee do you have? So in this case, the government, the state, will come and be your guarantee. Where normally it's up to 75% of the amount, it went up to 90%. So if I am asking for a loan of 10 million, then 9 million of those will be guaranteed by the state, which means that if I go burst tomorrow, that the bank will get refunded by the state, and their risk is only I would say 10%. Yeah, and that helped us a lot. It took us a while. The loan that we've managed to secure about a week ago, we started discussing back in October. Wow. Imagine
it took 6 months.
How things have changed. Yeah, how your assumptions have changed. My knowledge of the COVID back in October is nowhere near to what I know today. The assumptions are different. The market is different.
Do you need actually more money than what you have requested in October?
Luckily not, but the margin is very slim, very slim. Yeah. Luckily enough is that we also had the support from our shareholders, and that is very important. We are a very small airline. I mean, we carry 80,000 passengers a year, so we're a small drop compared to Air France, for example. Our shareholders are all private entities. So very hard for them to just say, yeah, let me put a few million in the pot. It's an airline. Come on, that's great. That's going to make money easily. Well, no, if that's your own money, probably an airline is not where you would put your money today.
Absolutely not.
Remember what Branson was saying in the old days? That is very true today. How to become a millionaire? Start by being a billionaire and invest in an airline. That is a statement probably 10, 20 years ago, still very true. Luckily, they believed in our business model, and in the fact that post-COVID, we will have everything that the market needs in terms of new aircraft. We're talking about how ecological that is. Distanciation, only 76 passengers at the same time, very easy to disinfect, and so on and so forth. And very economically.
You are lucky in that way because you've got few airplanes, and you've got the airplanes of the future. We clearly see that the smallest the aircrafts are, and the better and more resilient the company is.
Yeah, exactly. What will be key when we resume flying, and hopefully that's going to be somewhere late June, is that one thing for sure, we will not be able to play the volume game. When I say we, it's La Compagnie, it's an Air France, American Airlines, Delta, all the airlines flying transatlantic. We will not be able to just look at the volume and just say, let me put an A380 5 times a day to New York. That's not going to work. Even sometimes a 777 is too large. The 321 is the great aircraft. It's very resilient. It's economically a great aircraft, and it doesn't have the huge capacity that unfortunately the A380 had at the time. Although it's a great aircraft that we both love, and you've been at the control.
Absolutely. I do not want to ask you, let's say, private questions about your company, but can you give us maybe an idea of benefits margin? So what is the let's say the risk and benefit maybe ratio, if I may?
Well, I can't share too much details on the numbers, but the good thing about the 321 and the one that we have is called the Neo. So we've got the Neo, LR, and XLR. We only have 76 passengers, so in terms of range, it's a little bit less than 4,000 nautical miles. So we can easily fly from West Europe to the East Coast in the US without a fuel stop. XLR will be coming in the next few years, and probably add another 500-600 nautical miles. Okay. It's a great aircraft because the cost per seat is quite low. We have 76 passengers on board, all business class, and we only have 4 cabin crew on board. It's not like an A380 where you have to have at least one cabin crew per door, and
Absolutely.
you know there's quite a few doors. So the good thing about the A321 as we use it is that we only have 4 cabin crew. So in terms of the cost down to the seat, it is very, very low. We are a small airline, so we don't need to have like a fancy head office and a huge structure. So where we gain as an airline is on the fixed costs. That's where the gain is. We have very, very low fixed costs compared to other airlines, and that makes us in a very, very good position to restart the operations and make a substantial margin.
So how much does maybe each customer of yours consume of?
Well, the average ticket that we've got is about 1,000 euros per leg. So you can consider that on average, our customers are paying 2,000 euros return to travel business class across the Atlantic. That's one of the metrics. If you compare that to the cost of operating a 777 or an A380 for the same leg, then you understand what margin we have to get to the corporates and tell them, well, you know what, look at the margin you can make and the savings you can make when you will resume your travel, because that's what's going to happen. You had corporates spending millions of dollars on air tickets. All of a sudden, they could not travel. So they've seen the saving. Obviously, they went from 100 to 0. 0 is not something that they need, but they've seen how much they can save by reducing the number of trips. If they can still travel in the same number of times, but save on the actual ticket price, that's where we as a small airline can make a difference. We are good for them and they are good for us. Perfect equation.
I mean, you're selling it to us so nicely. Certain. I was talking to you about what we call in French PKP, so passager kilomètre payant. When you talk many languages. Look, Frédéric, I have in front of me here. I will share it maybe on the screen through the editing. But I have here the ICAO economic impact analysis published on the 11th of May 2021. So we are talking about basically a few days ago. And here we have an absolutely massive number, $371 billion of loss in the entire industry. What do you think about this number? Have you, I would say, at your level, at the level of La Compagnie, have you felt this this number, the impact of it?
Well, 375 billion. I don't know about you. I got no idea what that makes. That's a number that is astronomical. It's basically saying that the entire industry it's down to its knees. That's what it says. And that's what we've seen. Look at guys like EasyJet in Europe. You were seeing orange A320s in the sky everywhere. I live not far from Orly and Charles de Gaulle. You had EasyJets. Any time you go to the airport, you had EasyJet flights. I went there last week. They're all grounded. I could see 2 or 3 on the ground. That's it. The number of flights that they had during the worst part of the pandemic was maybe 1 or 2 in the entire Europe. So we're talking about a huge airline operating a lot of flights, and all of a sudden they were down to standstill. That's pretty much what it means. The numbers past a certain level don't mean anything other than that we're down to standstill. So what is very important now is obviously that we need to restart. That's very obvious, but we need to adapt. We need to learn how to walk again. Let's put it this way. I've got a 3-month-old baby. In a few months, I'm going to teach him how to walk. I'm in the same situation in the airline industry. We will have to start working again. What are the markets? What are the market sizes? I got no idea. How all of these markets will restart, in what shape, in what time?
We are coming to the perspective in the next question.
I don't know. So adaptability will be the key. So what the 375 billion is telling us is that we're down to zero. I'm more seeing it this way rather than say that's the gap.
So basically, the annual growth is so slow anyway. We were in 2019 at 4.3% of annual growth. It's so slow that anyway we will never get this money back, certainly. And what's really, really frustrating, I'd say for me, Evan, as a pilot, I'm not talking here as a researcher, but as a pilot, is that we've got an overall traffic reduction of 60%, with a peak, of course, in March, April last year of 92 and 98% on international flights, which I personally do because I fly the 330. We absolutely destroyed the aviation industry with this. And here is a question for you, Frédéric, and I'll maybe end up on this question. What do you think would be the future of the aviation industry? You've got, for example, here the forecast for Europe provided by Eurocontrol, and they're saying basically that if the vaccination is effective, we might recover 103% of the previous 2019 forecast. We will be able to recover by 2025 approximately. This if the vaccines and all the measures are good enough. But if not, they are saying we will recover in 2025 approximately 75% of it only. What do you think the future is going to be like, Frédéric?
Well, very hard to answer in one sentence, because that will very, very depend on your business model. I would say, lucky in the way that I'm only flying business class. So I'm flying people that have to travel for the business. If you own your own company, you have to travel. No travel means no business. If you are lucky enough to be able to travel, put a little bit more money and travel in business class, you will. And we think that the leisure market will actually resume first. If you're now a low-cost carrier, especially on the long haul low cost, in the likes of ex-Norwegian, that's going to be a tough one, because your business model is based on one thing: volume. If your business model is based on the volume, then you're going to struggle. And that's where you've got this difference between 2024, 2025. That's how the volume will recover. And that is very important, because we need to restore confidence from the customers to say, yes, you can travel. It's not about the travel itself. It's about the destination. Will I be safe there? What is their vaccination protocol? Will I get contaminated over there? It's not about the airline. It's not about the trip itself. It's about the destination. So we need all the countries to come at once and agree on what is our global vaccination protocol. What is our approach? Because the moment you have differences between, let's say, the US and Europe versus Asia versus Africa, this is where you will have a lot of imbalances in the market. Luckily, I'm more point to point, so I believe I will get back earlier than that. We are forecasting around 2022 to get back to levels we had in 2019, but that's not going to be the case for everyone. So think about, if it's all about volume, then you need to make sure that we have the global protocols in place.
I see what you mean. It's lovely. So you are exactly in between, I'd say, a normal company and a private jet company. So you are exactly there. It seems like you are a big private jet company, I'd say.
Well, yes, and that helped us a lot, because imagine you're sitting in my shoes, and all of a sudden you're told your market, the one that you've been operating for 5 years, is closed for you. Forget it. What are you going to do? You need to adapt. We're luckily a small airline, so whether it's our pilots, our cabin crew, our staff, we sat and said, okay, so where is our future in the short term? And then we said, we've got the right aircraft for people who want to travel safely, for sports, for some VIPs to travel anywhere in the world. So we've approached these business jet market and saying, we're going to need 321. If you're a cricket team like we had in Australia, so we've been contacted by Cricket Australia back in June last year, and they said, that's your mission. Mission Impossible is we want to take our national cricket team in Australia, bring them to the UK, and we need to keep them in a bubble. So that's your mission if ever you accept it. Mm-hmm. And we accepted it. We flew our crew, and I told our pilots, guys, that's the thing. You need to fly to Australia. You need to pick up the team there, and you need to travel back in the UK with 2 stops without the crew change. Are you willing to do it? And he said, obviously, yes.
Of course, they will do it. Is it legal though? In terms
it
of
is perfectly legal. And we had the great support from our civil aviation in France, where we said, well, that's how we're going to do it. And they said, yeah, go for it. As long as your pilots and your unions are okay for it, go for it. And we did it. We flew the national cricket team from Australia to the UK and back. And we had quite good success. We did about 30 plus charters with VIPs, with some sports. We were very, very good at getting some sport clubs, football teams.
Any team exactly? You can tell us maybe for the supporters, I'd say, because I know, but.
If you type in PSG, probably you understand.
Lovely.
One of our very good clients, yeah.
That's amazing. Frédéric, I really do thank you so much for your participation. I mean, you have provided me and obviously all the followers and all the people that will see this video on YouTube. You have provided us a great amount of information that we cannot find anywhere if we are not digging into this and living into this sector. So I really do thank you very much, Frédéric, again. So thank you, Frédéric. If you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Just keep faith. That's very important. We are working for an industry that is highly resilient. Keep faith. Especially if you're a pilot, things will come back. You need to be prepared. So stay prepared, stay current, and keep flying, keep dreaming, because that's what makes us live, and that's how we survive this pandemic, is by keeping an eye on the outcome. And remember, Paris to New York, that's where I'm going to be, hopefully end of June.
Wonderful.
I will. Thanks, Alex, and thanks to the viewers.
Bye. Thank you very much.